The motto of Facebook's early days, move fast and break things, is misunderstood by almost every non-native speaker I've ever taught. Japanese engineers think it's about causing chaos. Spanish entrepreneurs hear it and imagine literally smashing things. Even some Chinese founders I've worked with told me they thought Mark Zuckerberg was saying, break the rules, who cares?
Wait, is that not what he meant?
Not at all. And this is exactly why we need today's episode. Because if you walk into a room full of Silicon Valley people and use move fast and break things like that, they'll know you're not from around there.
Okay, now I need to know what it actually means.
Hey everyone, welcome to Speak Like a Native. I'm Maya.
And I'm Leo. So Maya, I think I've made this mistake myself. I remember reading about Facebook's early culture and thinking, wow, they just break everything and fix it later? That sounded stressful.
And that's exactly the surface level reading. But inside the startup world, break things does not mean destroy. It doesn't mean cause problems for customers. It doesn't mean be irresponsible. What it really means is push boundaries, experiment, try something that might fail. Because if you're not breaking anything, you're moving too slowly.
So it's more about speed and iteration?
Exactly. Think about a startup. A startup is not a big company. A startup doesn't have years of market research. It has maybe 6 months of funding. So the philosophy is, launch something fast, see what happens, learn from the mistakes, and improve. If you never break anything, you never learned anything new.
Okay, that makes so much more sense. So if I say to my team, let's move fast and break things, I'm really saying, let's try this quickly and accept that we might fail.
Perfect. That's it exactly. And here's a common mistake I hear from Spanish speakers especially. They translate break as romper and imagine physical destruction. But in English, in this context, break means challenge the existing system or find the limits.
Let me practice. Our competitor has been doing the same thing for 10 years. Let's move fast and break things.
That's a great use. But Leo, be careful. Only say this in a work culture that actually means it. If you say this in a traditional Japanese corporation or a German Mittelstand company, people will think you're insane.
Okay, so it depends on the culture.
Exactly. And that brings us to our first keyword, pivot.
Ah, I love this word, but I think I've been using it wrong.
Tell me how you use it.
I say things like, I need to pivot my career, meaning I want to change industries, or we should pivot our strategy, meaning change direction.
So close. That's actually not wrong, but it's incomplete. In startup culture, a pivot is not just any change. A pivot is a specific structured shift based on what you learned from your first attempt. It's not let's try something random. It's more like we tested our idea, it didn't work, but we learned something important. Now we're going to adjust our approach based on that learning.
So a pivot is a change that comes from data?
Yes, you launch your MVP, which we'll talk about in a minute. You get real feedback from real users, and then you pivot based on that feedback. That's the difference between a pivot and a random change.
Give me an example. I need to hear this in real life.
Imagine you start a food delivery app. You launch it in your city, and you realize nobody is ordering dinner, but everybody is ordering coffee at 2 p.m. So you don't keep trying to push dinner, you pivot, you become a coffee delivery app. You changed your entire business based on what customers actually did.
Oh, that's smart. The data told you something and you listened.
That is exactly what a pivot is. Now here's a mistake I hear from Chinese learners. They say pivot to mean completely start over.
Wait, isn't that what you just described? Starting over?
No. Starting over means you go back to zero. A pivot means you keep what you learned and you change just the direction. Think about it like this. If you're driving and you hit a dead end, you don't get out of the car and buy a new car. You turn the steering wheel. That's a pivot.
Ah, I see. The knowledge stays. The car stays. Just the direction changes.
Now let's talk about MVP. This is another one that gets used incorrectly by almost everyone.
MVP. Minimum viable product. I always thought this meant the cheapest, ugliest version of your product you can possibly make.
Then you launch it, nobody uses it, and you wonder why. That's because you misunderstood what viable means.
Okay, what does it mean then?
Viable doesn't just mean functional. It means good enough that someone would actually pay for it. The minimum viable product is not the smallest possible thing you can build. It's the smallest thing you can build that still delivers real value to a customer.
So the MVP is not the cheapest version. It's the simplest version that actually works for a real human.
Yes, and this is a huge mistake I see from Arabic speaking learners and also from Indian engineers. They spend months building a perfect MVP, but by perfect they mean has all the features. Then they launch and nobody cares. Because the MVP is not about having all the features, it's about having the right features, just enough to solve a real problem.
So what's an example? What would be a real MVP?
Let's say you want to build an app that helps people learn English through real conversations. The full vision might include AI feedback, video calls with tutors, a vocabulary tracker, grammar correction, and a community forum. That's your big dream, but the MVP is just one feature. Maybe just the conversation practice with a simple rating system. You launch that, if people use it and pay for it, then you add more.
So the MVP is not the full product, it's the test.
You're getting it. Now here's a sentence you can use. Say to your team, let's start with an MVP. One core feature. We'll test it with real users before we build anything else.
Let's start with an MVP. That sounds natural.
Now the third word, disrupt.
Ooh, this is my favorite. Everyone wants to be a disruptor.
But most people use it wrong. The word disrupt in English normally means to interrupt something in a negative way, like the construction noise disrupted my sleep.
Yeah, that's how I learned it in school.
But in startup culture, disrupt means to change an entire industry by doing something fundamentally different, usually cheaper, faster, or more accessible. Uber disrupted the taxi industry, Airbnb disrupted the hotel industry, Netflix disrupted the TV industry.
So it's a positive thing?
It's a powerful thing. Whether it's positive or negative depends on who you ask. But when you say we want to disrupt the education industry, you're saying we want to change how education works entirely. We're not just making a small improvement, we're changing the rules.
Okay, so if I say, we disrupted our meeting schedule, that's wrong, right?
Completely wrong. That's using the normal English meaning. In startup talk, you can only disrupt industries, markets, or categories, not your daily schedule, not your team's lunch plans.
That's a really clear rule. Industry or market level only.
And here is a cultural layer you need to understand. Silicon Valley loves this word because it's confident, it's ambitious, it says, we're not playing the same game, we're changing the game.
So if you're in a job interview and you say, I want to disrupt the logistics industry, that sounds impressive.
Only if you can explain how. If you just say the word without a real plan, you sound like you've watched too many TED Talks.
Okay, fair. So the word is powerful, but you need substance behind it.
Now let me tell you the mistake I hear most often from Korean speakers and Japanese speakers. They say disrupt when they mean improve.
I can see that. Improving is not disrupting.
No, improving makes something better. Disrupting makes something different. If you make a slightly better taxi app, that's an improvement. If you build a system where anyone can drive anyone anywhere using their own car, that's disruption. There's a big difference in scale.
Got it. So the cultural background of all these words, it's basically about speed, experimentation, and big ambition.
You summed it up perfectly. And now here's the part that surprises most people.
I'm ready.
Many people think startup language is casual, informal, even unprofessional. But the truth is, these words are used in very specific ways with very specific meanings. A real Silicon Valley executive doesn't say, let's pivot every day. They say it maybe once or twice a year when they have real data to support it.
So don't overuse these words.
That's the biggest mistake of all. When learners start using business English vocabulary, they use it constantly. Every sentence has a pivot or a disrupt or a move fast. That sounds unnatural. In real life, native speakers use these words sparingly and at the right moments.
So what should I do instead? I want to sound natural.
Use simple English most of the time. Then when the moment is right, like when your team is debating direction, you say, maybe we should think about a pivot. That one word in that one moment will have more impact than if you said pivot 20 times in a meeting.
That's such good advice. Let me practice a whole scenario.
Perfect. Imagine you're in a meeting. Your team built a language learning app for professionals, but the data shows that college students are the ones actually using it. What do you say?
Based on our MVP data, we're seeing that college students are our real users. I think we should consider a pivot. Maybe shift our marketing to focus on students instead of professionals.
That is excellent. You used MVP to talk about the data, pivot to talk about the change, and you didn't say disrupt because you're not changing an entire industry, you're just changing your customer focus.
I'm starting to feel like I could actually talk about startup culture now.
You can. And now let's do a quick recap so these words stay in your memory.
Yes, give me the quick version.
Number 1, move fast and break things, means experiment quickly and learn from failure, not destroy things. Number 2, pivot means change direction based on what you learned from your first attempt, not start over randomly. Number 3, MVP means the simplest version of your product that still delivers real value, not the cheapest piece of garbage you can push out.
Hold on, let me repeat that. The simplest version that still delivers real value. That's gonna stick with me.
And number 4, disrupt means change an entire industry by doing things differently, not interrupt your daily life. Use it for industries, not for lunch plans.
I will never disrupt my lunch plans again.
You better not. Now, today's rule for your pocket, the one sentence I want you to remember.
I'm listening.
Almost done. Swap we need to change everything for we need to test our MVP, learn and pivot if needed. That one swap will make you sound like you actually understand startup culture.
I love that. It's specific, it's actionable, it's not just a vocabulary word, it's a way of thinking.
That is the whole point of this series. We don't just teach words, we teach the culture behind them.
And that is why I keep coming back. Maya, before we go, I have to ask, is there a time when these words can actually hurt you?
Great question. Yes, if you're in a traditional company, a bank, a law firm, a government office, don't use startup language. It will make you sound like you don't understand your workplace culture. These words belong in startup environments.
So context matters more than the word itself.
Always. The most natural English speaker in the world is not the person with the biggest vocabulary. It's the person who knows when to use which word.
That's going to be my mantra.
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to Speak Like a Native. We release new episodes every day. Vocabulary, culture, real conversations. Hit the bell so you never miss a lesson.
And if you want to practice what you learned today, drop a comment, use one of the words, pivot, MVP, disrupt. In a sentence, tell us about your own startup idea or your dream project.
I read every comment, and I'll tell you if you're using it right.
Thanks, Maya. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
See you next time. Keep speaking like a native.